Now, to track multiple forms, you need to figure out which unique variables differ between each of them. A good first step is to go under the Variables section. Click Configure, and then enable all of the variables under Clicks and Forms, as these are the main ones you will use to set this tracking up. The first thing to check is if the form has a form ID, as these are always unique. To do so, inspect your form on the website by going to it, right-clicking, and then click Inspect. Here, you'll see a whole range of website data that you can use to help you set up some tracking. So right-click the Form Submission button, and then scroll up in the Elements section on the right until you see bracket Form. This is the start of your form, and the relevant information is often near the top. To double check you're on the right form and right part of the page, the entire form should be highlighted on the web page if you're in the right section. This information is what gets fired on the back end of the website when a successful form is submitted. We want to use this information to set up our triggers. If you do see a form ID, then you can use that as your unique identifier, as it's always unique for every different form. You can then go back to Google Tag Manager, go to the tag you're trying to fire, and then go to the triggering section below, click Add New Trigger, Trigger Configuration, and then select Form Submission again. This time, select Some Forms. Now the first drop-down will have a whole range of variables that you can choose from that you just set up. In this case, we found form ID when we clicked Inspect on the form, so select equals and then input the form ID and then click Save. This is telling Google Tag Manager that whenever this form ID happens, that you should fire the conversion tag so it can send data back to Google saying that the action has been completed. And then a conversion event will appear in your dashboard. Now, go repeat this entire setup, including the tag for how many forms you have. Reminder, you will need to set up a brand new conversion in Google Ads for each event you want to track on the website. Now, in this instance, let's say you haven't found a form ID when you've inspected the form on the website. We'll need to find a different variable to use. Right-click all the forms you're wanting to set up and see if there are any other unique variables. If you're having trouble identifying unique form events from inspecting the page, then we can use a tool to find out more. To do so, go to the main dashboard of Google Tag Manager and then click Preview on the top right. This is also a great tool that allows you to double check if your tracking is set up accurately. So once you're here, input your website URL and click Connect. This only works if Google Tag Manager is set up on the website. You should then be taken to your website where you'll see Tag Assistant pop up. Complete a test form submission and then go to your Tag Assistant tab in the browser that opened up. Here you can see all of the actions that you have made on the website and what variables and triggers they have fired. On the left, you can click into each one of these to see what was fired. Click on the form submission event and you should see the tags that were fired and the tags that were not fired. If your form submission tag was not fired, you'll see it under Tags Not Fired. So this is where you can check if you set it up correctly. Make sure to publish your tags to make sure it appears. To troubleshoot and identify unique triggers to use, you can go to the next tab, which is Variables. Here, you'll be given a list of all the variables that were fired as a result of this event happening. Once you've chosen the variables you want to use, then make sure you set up the exact same rules in your trigger. For instance, if you used the variable form URL, then when you go to your trigger, select your variable from the drop-down Form URL. We'll give you an example now. Once it's done, publish it again and then retest it through the preview tool to make sure it fires properly. Now, this entire process can be very, very complicated, though don't worry, as it'll get easier over time. The most important thing to do is continually test the events in the preview tool.